Today, I will paint the entry-grade RX-78-2 in casval'sgundam color scheme. It used to be a useful recommendation to paint SD for your first painted Gunpla, but when this was released, I started to disagree with that. Most of the SDs comes with a lot of stickers, hollow parts, and poor part separation. While the entry grade has a good part separation, relatively less parts with seam lines, the only hollow part is the scope of the beam rifle, but unfortunately, it is less detailed. It is also easy to build, which is I really like because you can see the result in short period of time. I have the parts cleaned and prepped already, but I haven't separated the parts by color. I will do that later. Let me first show you what paints I'm gonna be using. The primer I will be using is the Mr. Surfacer 1000. Very basic primer. I wanna use all of this first before trying the Surfacer 1500. The main color will be the Mr. Gundam color Char's Pink. Another paint that will go with that is Gundam color Char's Red. And by the way, these bottled paints are tinned already beforehand using 1 paint to 1.5 thinner ratio. If you want me to make a video about tinning paints, let me know in the comments below. Now for the gray parts, there's no specific Gundam color for it, so I'm gonna try these paints. Titan's Blue 1, which is not noticeably blue but more like dark gray, and the Xeon MS Gray, which is a lighter gray. To try the paints is always a good practice to test them on spoons first. Doing so, you will be able to compare or look if the paints look good together. Another reason will be when you're deciding which top coat to use. This will vary on what finish you want your Gunpla to have when it's done. Testing these top coats to your painted spoons later is a good idea before you use it on your parts. So I have the Modo Flat Clear and the Mr. Hobby Clear Gloss. When I use the Modo Flat Clear, the final finish will be more like flat or matte, and when I use the gloss top coat, the final finish will be glossy. I also have the bottled industrial thinner. This is what I use to clean my airbrush when switching paints. Now that I'm done showing you what paints I will use, I will separate these parts by color and clip it with bamboo skewers. As a beginner myself, I found it easier to group the parts with same colors together and use one paint for them all, but sometimes you might want to paint some parts with a different color, so it's up to you. It is also worth mentioning that you should sand the joints of your Gunpla, because when you paint it, there will be layers of paints on it and it will be hard to fit it into the peg holes. I have seen some people break their parts by forcing it in. There are some parts that I prepped up before I filmed this. For example, I removed the seam lines on the legs by putting Mr. Hobby cement in between two parts before putting it together and sanding it afterwards. Another thing is sanding with lower grit leaves scratches on the plastic. So to remove the scratches, you should use a higher grit sandpaper afterwards. If you don't remove the scratches, it will not be filled with a primer or paints. Instead, the paints will sink in and you will see the scratches no matter how thick you paint it. Also, when you are sanding, you are reducing the plastic. So you don't want to over sand and make a round surface flat or a flat surface round. In this painting session, I will not mask or hand paint the small details because the purpose of this video is to demonstrate that as a beginner, you can paint your model with a color scheme from another model without getting too deep into painting. Don't bite off more than you can chew. If you are painting your first Gunpla, you should take one step at a time. You should learn one skill before learning another skill. Because when you learn and apply all of the techniques and skills you watch online, you will not be able to identify which part or which process you did wrong. So it is recommended to master one skill first, which is in this video, painting, basic painting. Also, it would be really confusing if I show you a lot of techniques right away. Be careful to not mix all of these parts when you prime them, because you will not be able to identify what color this is afterwards. For the weapons, the gun, You can clip it by the middle of the grip or the handle of it, because that part will not be seen when it is equipped. Now that we have the parts separated, I can put this away for now and prepare the spray boot. Another tip I can share with you guys is have a cloth or old newspaper as a surface when you're painting to prevent a messy table like mine. Now we're moving to airbrushing. I will not speak for the rest of the video. I hope you enjoy it.